Hi, I'm Adam in Wales and this is my board gaming vlog, and this video is actually a vlog. Unlike a lot of my other videos, this one really is a video diary. It's not a board game review video, so you won't be seeing reviews of Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr, or Treasure Island, or Everdell, or any of these games around me. What you'll be seeing is me talking about my experiences of pitching designs to publishers, similar to what I've done over the last few years. The first time I did it I think was about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was my very first meetings with publishers, and now of course I've started to make a few little inroads into the industry with a few games coming out, and so now I'm meeting with publishers who already know me, I'm meeting with other designers, and this is a little video diary talking about those experiences. Guten Morgen, this is day one of my 6th time at the Essen Spiel convention in 2018. Last year Doodle Rush and Big Bazaar were released at the convention. This year Pikoko gets its first Essen Spiel release, although it has been seen previously at UK Games Expo and some of the American conventions. And also Doodle Rush gets its German release. So no brand new games this year, but once again I'll be pitching to various publishers, and I've made these videos a few times over the years. I don't think I did one last year. It's getting a little bit more difficult because I have to be slightly vague, because now I'm actually making some inroads into the industry. I don't want to give anything away, and I certainly don't want to offend anybody or share any information that I shouldn't. So if you look back at my channel over the years, you'll see a lot of videos where I'm very specific about, in this meeting this was said, and sometimes they're hugely positive things, sometimes they're very negative things, and so you get a real idea of the roller coaster ride that is pitching at a convention. This year I've got more meetings than ever. I think the first year that I went to Essen pitching I had 12 meetings with different publishers. This year I have 30 spread over 4 days. And actually this is the first year where I've had designers approaching me asking for meetings to talk about collaboration and just to sort of meet and chat. So that's been interesting. I've had quite a few publishers contacting me rather than me going to them. And actually recent months I've managed to speak to quite a lot of mass market publishers, as opposed to just the hobby side of the market, which Essen Spiel largely covers. So things have changed slightly in my sort of approach, but basically it's the same thing. I'm going to be doing half-hour meeting, half-hour walk to the next meeting, half-hour meeting, half-hour walk to the next meeting, and I have 7 prototypes with me this year, which I'm going to be showing. Some of them are collaborations with a colleague. In fact, a lot of them are collaborations with various colleagues, but I have a colleague with me, and we're going to have some joint meetings as well. Many of the meetings are with publishers I've met before, but there are a few new ones as well. So it's going to be an exciting and exhausting few days, and if I have the energy, I'll try and keep you informed. Good morning. It's very early in the morning on day 2 of the Spiel convention. Already my voice is going. I feel it's an exhausting thing going around that fair and talking to so many people in such a sort of dry, oppressive sort of environment with all that background noise and everything. There's so many people. Yesterday I had 9 meetings. With different publishers, some that I'd met many times before, some which were brand new. I thought I'd talk briefly about how I get these meetings. What I do before the fair is I send out emails. Increasingly I'm finding that publishers won't meet with you unless you present them with the rules of the game maybe, or some of them will say they'll only meet with you if you send them a video, which I always do. So they get a short video, a short overview. But I've got a colleague with me this year who I'm collaborating with, and he's been sending sell sheets out to people. And if they like the sell sheet, they're usually willing to have a meeting. So it's not hard to get these meetings as long as you have a good game and a sort of professional approach up front, I think. So 9 meetings, I'll talk through some of them. I'm not going to go into any great detail about who I'm talking about, and I'm not going to go through them in any particular order. So let's have a look at the list here. So a couple of people that I met who were new to me. Not the companies weren't new to me, but I hadn't met these individuals before. And
You find some companies have a very strong brand. You know going in what sort of games they're likely to be looking for based on what they've done in the past, and they have a real identity. Others, you go in and you look at their past catalogue and they've done all sorts of different types of games. They've done children's games, they've done card games, they've done heavy strategy games at various points over the last few years. And so it's very hard to pinpoint what they're likely to like. Now, having 7 prototypes with me, albeit all of them pretty light, I've been able to say to them at the start of these meetings, look, I don't really know what you're looking for right now in 2018 or for 2019. What sort of games do you want to see? And then tried to fit my pitch to that. And that's kind of worked. I've had, a couple of them have been interested. And what I've been finding with these smaller publishers, I suppose, is that they're asking for print and play files. And usually I'll give them a prototype. I'm happy to hand them a prototype. I bring lots of prototypes to the convention, but they're saying they don't want them because they don't want the cost of sending them back, whereas with print and play files, they can just print it off and make the game and play it, and that's cheaper for them. My worry with that is, will they do it? If I send them the files, will they actually print it and play it? So I'm very tempted to go back to those booths and say, look, here's the prototype. You don't have to send it back, just take it away and write that off. Because although that's time and money that I've spent on those prototypes, I mean, at least they're going to get played, I think, if I hand them a copy. So I may be revisiting those companies and giving them copies. What else have we had? Meeting with people that I've met many times over the years, got to know quite well, which is always nice. I had one meeting with a company that I like very much, and I showed them 3 games, and 2 of the games, he said he really liked the games, but either they've just made a game which is similar in feel to the one that I've shown him, or they've got one coming up next year which is already signed, which is similar to what I'm showing them. So he was very keen to say, you're absolutely on the right tracks, you know what we're about, you're showing us the right stuff, you just need to show it to us earlier, because and eventually you're going to get the game in there that we're going to publish. So that's reassuring, that's good. I've got one of my games is a trick-taking game, and this year the Spiel convention is absolutely full of trick-taking games. They're everywhere. I filtered the list of games by trick-taking as a category, and there were 27 of them. So I'm not sure how sustainable making trick-taking games is right now. Maybe give it a few years and then start looking at trick-taking games again, because I really enjoy making that sort of game. What else? Oh yeah, a couple of really big companies that I've met with. It's really nice when you meet with real sort of market leaders and they tell you that your games are on track. They're interested. They want to take away prototypes. They tell you they're clever games, they're elegant games, they're streamlined. And that's real validation of sort of the work I've been doing over the last few years, I suppose, because there's always the highs and the lows, but those moments are the real highs. I also know how easily that can drop after the convention. That interest can drop away, and you might not even get an email at all, or you might get an email just saying, yes, we've looked at the game, we're not interested. After all the enthusiasm in the meeting, you can get a fairly blunt email later. So I'm getting excited, but obviously you have to sort of temper that. Just remember, a promise there, well, not even a promise, but an enthusiasm there doesn't necessarily translate into a signed contract later. Good morning, it's day 3 of the Spiel convention, and just about to begin, just about to head off down to the convention. Yesterday was a good day, had about 8 meetings with publishers of various different sizes, and I used to be a little bit more afraid of that, the idea of giving your game to somebody who's a relatively small or new publisher, but when you see the care and attention that they lavish on these games and the support that they give to the games when compared to some of the bigger companies who, if one small game sort of falls away from their catalogue, that's no big deal to them. I think there's something in that, and so I always find these, even the smaller publishers, really worth talking to and seeing what they could do with your games. So I had a lot of positive responses. As I think I mentioned this yesterday in the vlog, so many people this year are saying to me that they want print and play files rather than prototypes. And I'm sure they'd love a prototype, but they just don't want to send it back. And I mean, one company, I showed them 6 of my 7 prototypes. I only didn't show them the 7th because we ran out of time, and he wanted copies of all of them to take away, which is hugely promising. I mean, and this is a big company. But he said, yes, but we have facilities to make all of these games as prototypes. You just send us the print and play files and we can make them. And I was saying, are you sure? Because some of these take me hours to construct. No, we can do it. So I mean, that's good if they can. That's great. What else from yesterday? I'm starting to realise this is the first year where I've come with a explicitly children's game, so a game that is designed for children. And the last couple of days have been a bit of a learning curve in terms of what different age groups are used to, what different age groups can accept. And of course, this is outside of local play testing. This is on a much broader scale. So looking at the range of harbour games, for example, they all say 5 plus. Virtually all of them are age 5 and up. And when you play them, they are so simple. So even when I design games that I think are really, really, really simple, and then I look at those and I think, okay, we need to go down a notch again. So that's been a bit of a learning curve. I've enjoyed that, actually, looking at exploring children's games. I've realised that children's market at Spiel, there are just as many children's games coming out as there are adults games. And of course that's what you'd expect because children play games, don't they? But that's a whole sector that's largely ignored among most of the professional designers that I meet. They're not designing for that market. They're designing for the adult market. But it's enjoyable trying to get into that sort of very simple stuff. Good morning. It is early on the final day of the Spiel convention now, and I'm about to set off down to the convention hall shortly for a final day of meetings. I think I have slightly fewer today. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings. That is a really relaxed day. I do actually have 5, but one of them I'm going to cancel because my co-designer of the games has already shown them the games yesterday, and they didn't like them. So there's really not much point in me going and meeting with them today as well. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to make a late cancellation of that one. But the day yesterday was a very full day, and felt like a roller coaster. Really, there was so much going on. I had various sort of meetings, some informal, some more formal, talking about various possible collaborations, and having a little bit of success over the last year actually means that there's people who want to work with me, which is wonderful. But of course, those are all sort of future projects, and so it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's happening there. So you're having those conversations, and then you're having conversations about the suitcase full of prototypes that you've got now, which are kind of made. My very first meeting of the day was at 10 in the morning, and when I arrived, I found that actually they weren't expecting me till 11. I suspect that's because sometimes when you book these meetings, they send you to a sort of online poll where you choose your meeting slot, and I never know whether my computer is converting that to UK time or whether the time on that poll is in German time, and so sometimes you get it wrong, and in this case I think it was probably my mistake and I got it wrong and thought it was 10 o'clock when actually it was due at 11. But fortunately my colleague went for me, showed our co-designs, and actually very kindly showed one of my games to them as well. And from what he tells me, they really liked my game very much, as well as the co-designs, so I'm going to go and give them a prototype of my game today. I had a meeting with an extremely enthusiastic gentleman, most enthusiastic gentleman I've met at the fair, and I had a meeting with less enthusiastic people. Still friendly, but you go from one extreme to the other. You go from somebody who will sit and shake their head as they look at your game. They just wear their heart on their sleeve. It's obvious. They're not impressed by what you're showing them, and then you'll show the very same game to somebody else, and they'll say, "Wow, that's fantastic, you've done such a good job with this." And so you just have to take those highs with the lows, and it's a strange experience. It is this convention. I also had a meeting where I was talking to a publisher about, I mentioned in a previous video that I made in my Essen preview video, actually, that a couple of years ago I designed a game very similar to what CG have put out as trap words. And CG were totally unaware of what I was doing. But I'd mentioned this in my video, and the publisher said to me, "Oh, I heard that you had a game that was very similar to trap words. Why didn't you show it to us?" To which I said, "Well, I did. I showed it. I showed it to your colleague about 18 months or so ago, and they didn't like it. So be angry with your colleague, not with me." Trap words is great. I've picked up a copy of trap words to play. Because it certainly looks prettier than my prototype. My prototype was a fun game, but this has got that great dungeon crawling thing going on. It's a really attractive game. So the Essen Spiel convention has now finished. It's the morning. I'm about to fly back home to Wales, and yesterday was another roller coaster sort of day. Actually, yesterday was strange. I'd have one good meeting, one bad meeting, one good meeting, one bad meeting, and I had very few bad meetings throughout the fair. But yesterday, a couple of meetings where, I mean, when I say bad, what I mean is they weren't interested in the games. I mean, they weren't rude, but it is strange how the same game, you can show it to somebody and they get super excited about it, and then you walk just around the corner and you speak to somebody else. And they really see nothing in it at all. Both are sort of well-respected companies, both know what they're talking about, but I guess then it just becomes a matter of personal taste. But some exciting new avenues possibly coming up yesterday from those meetings. I suppose one thing that sort of I remember from the very first time I started pitching games in Essen, which was about 5 years ago, something like that. And one of my very first meetings, I remember meeting this gentleman. I was very nervous. I'm going to show him my games. And I showed him an early prototype of Picoco at the time. And he was sort of interested in it. They didn't end up taking that game on as evidently it's gone on to become one of Brain Games' games. But we met with that same gentleman again this year, as I have done every year since. So I meet with this guy every year. And I said, "Oh, do you remember that time when I showed you that game? And now it's out as Picoco." And he said, "Yes." He said, "Oh yeah, that was my very first meeting. I just started working here, yeah." And you realise that you're all nervous about these meetings, and you think that you're the sort of the amateur, and but the publishers are they're going through all these same sort of things. My co-designer, he said he sat waiting for a meeting, and he overheard. The publisher was talking to a big distributor, and this was a big publisher, and they were talking in millions of boxes in warehouses and all this sort of thing. And the publisher was just saying, the distributor was just saying bluntly to the publisher, "Right, well, I'm interested in this game, I'm not interested in this game. In this game, you've just got too much air in this box. You've just put that there just to make it look more expensive, and my customers aren't going to fall for that." And you realise that the publishers are going through exactly the same experience that the designers are. When the designers are shown to publishers, the publishers are having the same experience when they're shown to the distributors, trying to get their games to market. So as always, it's been an educational week, it's been an exciting week, it's been an exhausting week, it's been fun, but I'm quite glad to be flying home. Thanks very much if you've been watching, and I'll let you know how I get on.